Hello and welcome to another episode of Perfectly Honest. Today we're talking about The Mandalorian, Season 1, Episode 1. I have with me Maddie B, and as always, spoilers are here. And if you haven't watched the episode yet, what are you doing? Go and get Disney Plus, binge it. It's only like, 36 minutes, Matt? You'll know what the heck we're talking about. But once you've done that, come back, see us, and we'll talk about The Mandalorian. So welcome, you guys. Matt and I love everything Star Wars. This has been something that I almost want to say is life-changing. Maybe that's a little bit too much for a TV show, but this is great. This reminds me of, basically, New Hope. We got a lot of influence from like Westerns. I think that's really apparent here. Honestly, I don't know how it could have gone better. We'll talk a little bit how it's been perceived in the public. I think generally overall really good. There's been a couple things I think people have been nitpicking a little bit on, but for me in general, yeah, kind of interestingly, I feel like I'm like, oh, it's pretty much perfect. I wish it was a little longer, honestly. But I understand that it cannot be, a full movie. So yeah. I guess what can you do? Hopefully maybe after the TV series we'll get that, but definitely some interesting things. So Matt, I'll shoot over to you. What did you think about the series episode 1 overall?
I was just happy.
Yeah.
Overall, that was my ultimate takeaway, was just happy that they didn't mess it up.
Yeah, definitely.
Felt like my childhood.
Yeah, talking about quality, like I honestly had a hard time distinguishing between this and like a newer movie. Like I thought the graphics were really great. The cinematography was great. There was really nothing that made me go, like this is really standing out. A couple people have noted in the public that they feel like the CGI is a little bit a couple years ago. I don't notice that. It doesn't bug me.
I didn't notice that at all. In fact, there was one scene where he's landing on the planet to basically collect the money for all the bounties.
Yeah.
And I really liked how when he was, and I just noticed it the second watch through, but the reflections on the back of his helmet as he was going down, you could see the sky behind him.
Yeah.
And it just was really immersive. I liked that. I thought that was really neat.
We talked about it a little bit, and this actually hasn't released. We had just talked about it when we were looking at the trailer breakdown, but the practical effects that they did with the ship, I think really pay off and you really notice them. Mm-hmm. I think they look great. That's where usually that kind of stuff sticks out for me, where if I'm looking at some of the creatures of Star Wars, I'm a little bit more forgiving. And there's, part of Star Wars is there's a lot of like animatronic / puppets. That just kind of comes with the territory. So
Jim Henson.
Yep. I don't
definitely felt that though.
I don't worry too much about that stuff because I think it's part of it. But yeah, overall, I really liked it. Like we said, it was short, but I think it was really meaningful. I'm really hooked in. Definitely that last part got me. We've already talked about spoilers, so you've been warned, but we're going to bring up basically the main one. It's Yoda's baby. Either as Yoda's baby or one of Yoda's race or one of Yoda's clones. We don't really know yet, but really, really interesting. And, I think it's just really interesting, like I said, too, to go back to kind of the style of Star Wars that when Star Wars originally came out, this is like what my parents saw,
Yeah.
It's awesome. Like, and this is stuff that we grew up, on Thanksgiving watching Star Wars. This is why we watched it. It wasn't because, episode 1, 2, and 3, the kid-friendly stuff. Well, this isn't horrible, it's more like reality. It's not so picture perfect, which is really interesting coming from Disney Plus. So,
yeah, I could not be happier, honestly, with the level of excitement that I had and the level of buildup that I had in my mind, which, I didn't doubt it just because of the people that are involved. But there was a part of me that was worried.
Oh yeah.
Deep down, I was a little bit worried, and they completely washed all those worries away. Yeah.
Now, we don't have a whole lot of episodes for this season. So we do have another one coming out here on Fridays, which I think is like just awesome, right? To have 2 episodes in 1 week, essentially.
Yeah.
And then after that, looks like every Friday we're going to be having one air. So definitely, if you guys want to check out our media that we put out for it, just make sure you're subscribed on either YouTube or Apple Podcasts or Spotify, wherever else you find podcasts as well. You'll probably find us. But that way you get the latest and greatest, and we always try to put them out as soon as possible. So just make sure you're doing that. So I thought before we jumped in, maybe we should do a little bit of a little making sure everyone's on the same page, because there's a lot of stuff in here that, honestly, if you didn't really love Star Wars as a kid, you could totally watch this. It's very watchable, I think, for someone that's a novice.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of stuff in here too that if you know a little bit more of the backstory is like really interesting. It's a little bit more to chew on. And I think a lot of that is really the Mandalorian stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we have a lot of things that's like, oh, okay, what exactly does this mean if you're not sure? So Beskar Steel, Mythosaur, the Purge, Foundlings, these are all really interesting things. And, we don't know a whole lot about all of them. We kind of just know a little bit of backstory about it. So let's start kind of with Beskar Steel.
Yeah. Well, it's the steel that their armor's made out of.
Yeah, definitely. So it's the steel that basically was really prized because it can even take a hit from a lightsaber. So that made the Mandalorians really a formidable enemy, or just warriors. And we know that was really sought after. And I think it was in the Clone Wars, maybe it was in one of the other series, but we know that after Order 66 happens, which is the Purge, which we talk a little bit here, that they were really trying to get a weapon to combat Beskar Steel, but we don't think that happened. So maybe they just decided, hey, we're just going to control it. We know that it's stamped with the, like the Empire's seal. So maybe they took over all of the mines for it.
There was one weapon that they made,
but it was destroyed.
Well, that was I don't know because I haven't watched all of the Rebels episodes, but
yeah, it was destroyed.
The girl that
she destroys it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So they won't have this tool against Mandalore. So it's like either they
gnarly. It was turning them all into microwaves, basically. Yeah.
But it's like they had to do something basically to get a control on this, right? We also see kind of from the situation, we have, the Mandalorians are essentially this little clan. It almost seems like they are almost wiped out. Mm-hmm. They're on the run, the refugees almost. And they definitely have this proud heritage. There's a lot of legends that go with them and everyone recognizes that. But everyone also kind of doesn't know a lot about them. And I can't help but feel that's because they're kind of wiped out. Like they're on the edge. They start
abducting children.
Maybe. I mean, hey, get some foundlings. So that's another thing. So we have foundlings. So Mandalorians, they had a culture where basically if you were adopted in, you were basically considered a blood relative. There was no ifs, ands, or buts. If I said, you know what, Matt, you're adopted in my family, you're now in my family. There's no question about that. And you would take that and you would fight upon my cause and my family and take my crest and all of that good stuff. So when we talk about foundlings, he has his Beskar Steel that he gets from one of his bounties, and he brings that back. And essentially, we're like, oh, okay, foundlings. I guess maybe we're trying to amp up the Mandalorians a little bit more. And also, is he actually a true Mandalorian?
Well, I'm not sure if there really is. I think it's almost,
anymore.
Yeah, I think it's almost more of just like an ideology and
totally.
A belief system or just a practice than it is a bloodline at this point.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's really interesting too, because we have, essentially this guy who everything we can see so far, everything he's earned, he's taking that, he's putting into armor, right? Mm-hmm. He's becoming this like mythical Mandalorian soldier, and he has the helmet, obviously, and then he has one of the shoulder plates. And I think as we go along, like we're going to see him put all this armor on, and that's going to embody like him being an actual Mandalorian warrior, embracing everything.
I like that scene though too when they put the pauldron on his shoulder. there's like something going on underneath there, like little lights,
totally
blinking stuff, and I thought that it just made me question like what's going on with the technology,
Yeah, definitely.
How everything gets linked together.
So we have a couple image captures, so we'll go through that. So obviously we start and we have the Mandalorian shows up, and he is coming to this ice planet, which we don't really know anything about. This is not a planet we've been to before, as far as we know. We have a little kind of bar. They go to get this guy. Now, I thought this was really interesting because this is Bill Burr. No, not Bill Burr. What's the comedian that Horatio Sands is the one who plays this guy. A lot of people have said that he's a little too much. What was your opinion on that?
I felt like he was a little much, but at the same time, I think that I just appreciated it. Like he seemed slimy. He seemed like I just thought he was in character. I mean, I don't know what his backstory is. I'm sure his backstory would explain why he is the way he is.
Yeah.
I do have to admit though that, you know, the best line in the entire episode was, "I can take you in warm or cold."
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting. You know, we have this scene that we've seen in all the trailers, which was pretty badass. And I think you and I had decided, like, is it going to cut him in half? I don't know. This is a kid-friendly show. Oh, they cut him in half. Then we have him. He gets basically on a speeder. He gets on. This is also another comedian. We really have a lot of comedians showing up for this. We have Bill Burr, Horatio Sands. This is a guy that has done a couple of different things. Brian Faustine.
Yeah, I recognized him, but I didn't recognize him enough to know what his name was.
Yeah, he did a couple different things with a lot of people, but I definitely recognized him right away. I'm like, oh, weird. We have this awesome walrus beast that tries to take down the ship. I thought that was pretty good. It was awesome to see his rifle essentially in work and how powerful it was. And then we have this awesome scene where he's kind of playing coy, like, oh, okay, yeah, just go to the bathroom, whatever. And he's like,
I do appreciate the dialogue.
I'm malting.
Yeah. I haven't evacuated myself since the solstice.
Yeah. Okay, whatever. But I think this does show a point, like, and it only makes the last scene, more poignant. Like, he doesn't take bullshit, right? He lives by the bounty code, and you're not going to talk him out of it, even if you are going to pay him more. Like, he's not going to do that. He's just going to go find his bounties, go turn you in, make his money, and that's it. So we have him landing. He walks into this town. This is another cool little planet. When we see kind of an offshot, I don't have a capture of that, but it's really cool looking. It's another kind of scenery that, you know, we were kind of worried at first, like, oh, is every episode just going to be like kind of linked onto one planet and we're going to have all of that planet for episode? Doesn't look like it. Looks like we got a whole bunch, but
just like the different, honestly, like, I don't really care so much about the different, you know, flora and fauna and everything like that. I mean, I do, but at the same time, cinematically, I really do appreciate the color schemes that they have on the different planets.
Totally. Yeah. And it's so lived in, like, you know, I think that's one thing we forget, you know, that's why you kind of forget this is a TV show and not a movie, is like, it's really, really lived in. Every little area feels like, you know, it's been there for 100,000 years. Like
garbage here and there.
Yeah, exactly. The scum of the universe. So we have Carl Weathers, and essentially he's negotiating, like, oh, I don't have a lot of contracts. You know, this is what it is for credits. And we have Mando is like, hey, crap, like, hell no, I'm not taking Imperial credits. The Empire's fallen. Like,
yeah,
give me what you can. So we basically strike a deal, and he gets these other credits. They're called
Flan.
Yep, and the Mon Calamari is the guy from the movies that's like,
it's a trap.
It's a trap. Yeah.
Admiral Akbar.
I don't know. It sounds so slimy.
Yeah.
You can tell it's like an added like sound effect, like.
Yeah. Flan though, that sounds like it's a dessert, isn't it?
Someone said like a lot of their stuff in their language is all like food for whatever reason, so it's kind of interesting.
Well, calamari,
yeah,
I mean,
right,
you know,
totally
it's pretty tasty.
So they offload all of that, but we have basically this thing where it's like, hey, I need more money. Like, I'm a bounty hunter. I've just done 5 of these. What can I do? And you have him in the hub right here of all the other, you know, you would assume bounty hunters, right? And he's like, well, I have 5 of them. They're basically just, you know, people jumping ship, or I have a smuggler that needs to be brought in, kind of a callback to Han Solo. But it's not a lot of money. And he says, you know, that doesn't even cover like fuel. So what the heck's going on? So you can kind of feel like this is, you know, even the Empire breaking down, it doesn't just affect the Empire. It kind of breaks down all these other little associations too, right?
Yeah. And my takeaway from this whole scene though was how much I appreciated the callbacks to the original trilogy. It was just the straight, pilfering in the best possible way of the sound effects and the languages that you found, like as he's walking in, just the little background things, you hear it, and it's like, for somebody that listened and had the movies playing in the background, you just hear all of the little tiny things, and it's just like, yep, you guys hit the nail on the head.
Check mark. So we find out there is this one elusive hit, and it's going to be face to face. That there's no beacon. There's a beacon for it, but there's nothing else. And he's like, okay, I'll figure it out. But before he
Puck.
Puck, right?
Yeah.
Which the Puck is just literally the thing that says, here's a warrant. Like, we don't know more about
I actually really enjoyed the thoughts behind that, because it was like, there's the Puck, which is some kind of, it's almost like a wanted poster.
Yeah.
Right. Which the wanted posters had some kind of official framework for it.
Yeah, you'd probably be able to go to local law enforcement and be like, hey.
Yeah, exactly. They'd recognize it. You could see if it's a forgery or something.
Yeah.
And then the chain code, which, he later on they say, you can only get the last 4 of it. And he's like, oh, the age. So the chain code has like all of this information about the individual. And I thought that was really kind of a neat take on it. And then on top of that, this fob thing, like how does that even work?
Genetic tracker or something? Yeah, I don't know. It's crazy. Hey man, I'm not going to question it. It's cool as hell. I like the little fob thing. I feel like I need to put it on a couple people. But so we have him. He basically goes into another location. And this is another thing from the trailers that we saw pretty heavily. We have these stormtroopers. They look really beat down. And we have, has to be one of the coolest sounding characters ever, right? He just sounds like no wonder they had him in the trailer, right?
Yeah, he's seen some shit.
He's basically saying like, hey, like we have a couple of different things we want to do. We have the scientist that comes out, scares the crap out of him. There's a standoff, and he's like, hey, stand down. Like, we know you're the best. We also know you're really expensive. So
I feel like I feel like that line though one-ups Han Solo, because Han's always like, don't tell me the odds.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'll take those odds. Yeah. Like 1 in 4. Yeah,
totally.
I'll take it.
Totally. We have a little ignet of the Beskar steel is stamped with the official insignia of the Empire. So this is upfront payment, and this already is rare, right? Mm-hmm. It's enough for him to go out on a limb and do this. So he's like, okay, I guess I'll do it.
The lady says later on, she's like, this is
more than enough.
Yeah, more than enough. This is going to pay for the little chitlins. Back it up. We got Salacious Crumb on a spit. Kowakian monkey lizard.
Yeah, totally. Right.
And
I thought that was so such a good tone of this movie of like,
I want
your childhood.
Whatever that creepy laugh he does is.
Oh, totally. So we have him, basically he gets done with this. Before he heads on his mission, of course, he's got to put that bounty money to work, right? So he enters in the clan of Mandalore. This is the signia of Mandalore, and looking it up, and we even have it called back a little bit later. This is a mythosaur, basic little skull, right? And no one really knows what they look like, but supposedly this is their skull. So,
yeah,
kind of
which is cool. Is like I've always known about this symbol. Like, is any Boba Fett fan, sees it all over the place. Oh. People got bumper stickers and whatever.
Oh, totally.
But I did not know
what exactly it is. Yeah. Which no one really does, I guess. But, supposedly they were mythosaurs on Mandalore, original Mandalore, and they were ridden. Interesting. So we go in and he meets basically the armorer is what she's called. We don't have an actual name for her. And she kind of, I don't know about you, but she feels kind of like the head of the clan to me of what's left here. Maybe.
Like the heart of it.
Yeah. And maybe if there was a... what am I thinking of? Like a spiritual leader kind of Mandalore. Doctor. Yeah, but like an armor.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, I mean, I feel like that would be almost a religious kind of position for them, considering that, you have to hand down the knowledge of forging this super rare material.
Mm-hmm. And like a rite of manhood, getting we have a talk here of getting his signet. He hasn't had it yet. We know that. and she says soon, basically.
Yeah, he's not down with the signet.
Down with the signet. So basically we have, Mandalorians are very famous for their family and being kind of a warrior nation and this deep cultural heritage. And we have kind of that this is kind of fallen apart as far as the people, but like their traditions are really strong still, right? This seems like this is kind of
strong.
definitely mysterious. But I mean, you can tell like I can't tell if she's like the head of this or she's just like a really important figurehead of this clan. But he comes in, he's basically like, here you go. All of the money that he's spent, right, is being given back to her, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I can only assume like this is kind of like, hey, we all go out, we win bounties, we come back, we share amongst the tribe. He's not hoarding it for his own wealth, right? Doesn't appear to be.
I have a lot of questions about this whole scene.
Yeah, it's really,
first of all,
really interesting.
The forge.
Yeah.
What is it? How does it get so hot? Like it's like purple flames, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Hot enough to melt this steel like it's nothing. When supposedly forging Beskar is like really difficult.
Yeah.
And like what kind of apparatus is this? I have a lot of questions about it.
Yeah, definitely. It melts through this ignite like you said, like it's wax. It's crazy. Yeah. And she's working away at this.
And then also her helmet is we talked about this earlier. Well, not like gold, yeah, but the eye formation of hers is completely different from every other Mandalorian that you see when you walk,
mm-hmm.
When he's walking through that hallway. And
it has a lot of decorations on top and yeah.
And like that's very reminiscent of, like a Greek,
Oh yeah, totally.
Spartan helmet or something like that.
Totally. And you also see like, speaking of like, how is she doing this? When she's like, oh, Beskar, she's kind of like, ooh,
yeah,
I like it.
Opens up like
she's
a whole
like,
nother thing.
And it's, oh, Beskar tools. Like, because
that was a frustrating part about the scene. Like I really enjoyed the scene.
Yeah.
But then like, there's the part where she's like, there's this giant thing that comes down and hammers it into shape. And then she's like, tink, 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 tink. Like I'm expecting like a,
yeah, totally.
Like you got to put some fucking elbow grease into it, but just tink, tink.
It's all the dark arts, right?
Yeah.
You gotta know what you're doing. So while she's doing this too, she's talking about foundlings and he, says, oh yeah, I was a foundling. And we have this flashback. This is definitely shorter than it has been in the trailers, but
some validation for like knowing that it was him.
Yeah, right.
From the trailer.
Gotcha. And I think this is more proof for the pudding that he is not exactly. I don't think he is like truly from Mandalore. I think he is a foundling. I think he was brought into this, abandoned, orphaned. He's coming through the ranks. He's getting his Mandalorian armor, and he's doing really well, right? So, anyways,
I wonder if she's like really old.
I mean, who knows though?
It's the frail.
Tink, tink, chink. I don't know, but I really liked it. I think it's interesting. I can't wait for him to have more armor. I feel like that's going to kind of, every time we go back here, I feel like every time we have something, it's going to go back here.
It's like an RPG. You go out and farm stuff to come back and improve your armor.
Yeah. I keep on bringing up this last scene, but it's like, this really does put a lot of weight into this because, you have someone who their entire culture basically is dependent on this money, on this Beskar steel, right? He already knows there's a crap ton of it. There's a crate of it, probably more than they've seen in a long time, right?
Oh yeah, he called it something that was weird. It was like a container, but it wasn't really a container. It was, a huge amount. I turned on the subtitles, and it's a word that doesn't
make sense.
We don't use.
Yeah,
I suspect it means a container of some kind, but
that's a lot, right? And so to have all of that kind of in the back of your head, like, hey, like this is enough to rebuild our people. Like our people have gone through the basic genocide, it seems like, and we're building ourselves back up. Like for him to, basically do the right thing, and not kill this baby Yoda or bring this baby Yoda in, like that's kind of that says a lot. So I like that. I like that we're kind of just looking at the stakes here, and we also look at like what's the consequences of this too, right? We know that this is a lot of freaking money, right, for all this Pascal steel. So if you're not going to do this, is that going to put a bounty on your head now? Because he's obviously going to take the Baby Yoda, right? Like,
yeah.
does that go back to your people? Like, where does that end? So really interesting. So then we have him take off, and he basically finds out the last known location of this target and lands. And we get another awesome shot of his rifle. This has definitely been from part of the
trailer.
So we have him basically on this planet. He's looking down the back of his rifle, and we have a blurg. So,
which was entirely reminiscent of the scene in A New Hope when he's looking at the banthas, and then all of a sudden the Tusken Raiders like right up in his grill. Yeah, I like that.
So pretty awesome fight. We get to see him a little bit of his flamethrower, and he doesn't really use it that well. Honestly, no. I thought it was gonna be a little bit better, but he does shoot, and it looks like he uses a dart, or someone else uses a dart, I guess. In hindsight, we have another one coming, and it also gets kind of electrocuted, and then we have
the best practical effects in the entire episode.
Yeah, and he looks great. Like, and I love practical effects are great.
Yeah, I love the practical effects because that's a real person.
That looks like a person.
It's a little person. Yeah. I don't know what the politically correct thing to say is, but it's a little person.
Yeah.
With a fucking animatronic mask on. That's like leaps and bounds better than what we had in the original trilogy. But then he like does this little like kick on the side of the blurg where he's like kick, and I just loved it because it's like that's a real person in there. That's not a robot, you know.
Totally. So,
although it didn't match up with like the words sometimes, but
yeah,
that's kind of like, I don't know,
to be expected. What can you do?
I almost appreciated that more than it like matching up perfectly.
Yeah. So we have him basically, you know, he gets saved. He goes to that guy's camp and he talks and says, hey, you know, everybody that's come here, this is a place for people that want to be peaceful. And because this bounty's out, no one can be at peace. So I will lead you to them. You know, my fee's basically going to be your blurg. Yeah. Right. He was like, okay, well, cool. He's like, but first you're gonna have to ride one. I didn't understand why we needed to ride one. But okay.
I think it's the caverns, or not the caverns, the just the terrain, the constant jumping over the little crevices and stuff.
I guess I'll believe it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a land speeder would do the trick too, but
or a ship, but you know,
well,
interesting.
They hear you coming though.
That's very true. But you know? I mean, in the end, it didn't matter, right?
Yeah, it didn't.
But yeah, we have this little moment where he basically tames the blurg, right? And he just like touches it, which is, it kind of felt a little forcey to me.
Well, I don't know. I didn't get forcey out of it. I got horsey out of it.
No.
I did. I got like this is a bucking bronco, and this is like a rite of passage, and you're the cowboy.
You gotta learn to ride, boy.
Yeah, I mean, that's literally what it. I mean, and this scene was a scene that surprised me because I did not expect to get as emotional as I got, like the way that the music, and then he's like, your ancestors, rode the mythosaur.
Yeah,
and kind of called him out on his own culture, and he was like, oh shit.
Yeah, I gotta man up.
I guess I gotta do it.
Gotta do it.
And,
yeah, we also get a little bit about the blurgs, which is kind of interesting that they're only females right now because they just eat the males.
They're like the praying mantis of desert alien creatures.
Yeah, totally. So anyways, he gets on one. He learns to ride. And, of course, they go on their way. And they get out here. And he looks down at the encampment. And, oh, crap. We got IG-11.
Yeah.
Man, he looks so cool. In the trailer, he looked great, too. But, like, honestly, so good to see him in action for like an actual long time. Yeah. He was a badass, like killed so many people.
He was badass, but then at the same time he was like just popping and locking everywhere. Yeah. And I loved the way there was the one moment where, right here, where he steps over one of the fallen guys that he shot, and it's just like the way his lower torso just kind of does like a 360 and
yeah.
And the comment, the way that they interacted, that was one of the things that I noticed and just really appreciated. It was a really well done, kind of subtle, sarcastic, if you will, comedy between the two of them, and I just really appreciated it.
But it also, like, at the same time, like, this was the most action-packed scene we had for the entire episode so far, and it totally worked. Like, I was totally into it. We have some definite Star Wars, then we have the whole self-destruct thing. This was the only thing I thought was a little ridiculous, but I mean, hey.
No, I mean, I thought it made sense. Like,
but I'm also like, how this guy's been a assassin for how long? Like, he's a bounty hunter for how long? Like, every time he does this.
Well,
like,
which one?
The IG-11. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like every time he's just like,
how do you know? How do you know how many times he's been out?
I don't know. I just have a feeling.
I mean, he's an assassin droid, or he's a bounty hunter droid, or whatever.
Yeah.
He gets sent on a mission, and maybe he's just never run into a situation where he's like this overwhelmed.
Yeah, like, makes sense.
But also, he's a droid. He doesn't have, like, obviously a huge personality. He's following protocol, and then, like, what how do you know, like, that, you know, he commits seppuku, he self-destructs, and 2 weeks later you have
there's another
IG-22 shows up. You know,
I don't know. It's just interesting. So then we have this huge kind of a crazy machine gun kind of looking thing, but a blaster. And of course, they look like they're down for their luck. And we have another scene where he's like, "Oh, got to self-destruct again."
Yeah,
he's like,
scene, that little pause that happens when they're like, "Okay, we're gonna shoot our way out of here," and comes around the corner and looks at it, and he's like, "Oh,
just kidding."
Yeah. Second thought.
So then, of course, he gets him with his gun, Gatling gun.
The music
swings around.
Up.
Yep, he's going shooting, and it's like, awesome. Loved it. I hope we get a lot of more scenes like this. Right.
Yeah, but I mean, it was cliche, but I think that they pulled it off. I think that I'm not gonna complain. Like,
totally.
It wasn't the most tactical, of fights, but
no, of course not.
But I mean,
but we also, I think the other thing we see with this, right, that's important is, like, he's not a person that's like, like, I can't work with anyone else. Like, he was willing to work with this IG-11, right? He would have no qualms with it.
For a minute.
Yeah. I mean, who knows what he would have done afterwards,
also
right?
Doesn't have any qualms with
shooting him.
Popping you.
Yeah, well, so we get to this. So we get in this fortification, and there's a little pod. And at first I was like, what the heck is this? Baby Yoda.
So, Cambria.
Yes. So this is Matt's daughter.
Yeah, she's 10, and love you, Cambria. And I had to, like, rewind it because, like, I couldn't hear what anybody was saying. She was like, "Oh my God, it's so
baby,
so cute."
Yeah. It is really cute. Also 50, so yeah, very interesting.
Very good looking for 50.
Hey, Yoda, don't crack.
Yeah. But just like the scene, like right before that, the scene where you see, like, the head kind of, like, come up and the ears pop out, and you're just like, "Oh shit, what is that?"
Yeah, not the way I thought it was going to go.
No, not at all.
Like, definitely not for this first scene for sure. So, you know, I do think it's real interesting. But what can you do?
Well,
so that's our episode. You know, all in all, I thought it was great. Like, I don't have a lot of qualms with it. I thought it was really interesting. Definitely the ending is, I think, what ties everything to what the next episode is going to be, right?
And the last screenshot that you had up was, you know, right before the end credits roll.
Yeah. And
the end credits roll, and you've got these paintings and illustrations that they looked awesome.
Yeah. And I got the feeling, just because I have watched it twice so far, probably watch it again tonight. But there's one where he's sitting across from the armorer, I think is who it's supposed to be, but she doesn't look like herself. So, and that wasn't another scene. We don't see him meet another Mandalorian at all. Mm-hmm. So it makes me think like these were pre-production, like these were the sketches that they were like, okay, hey, like let's hire someone to do this.
Yep.
Maybe they were a little bit more rougher than this, and someone else finished them.
Like a Ralph
But like,
McQuarrie kind of thing.
like this is great. This is, in my mind's eye, what I want to see. Boom, right there, and it worked out.
Yeah.
So I'm way excited. I cannot believe we're gonna get another one here on Friday. I cannot wait for it. I really want to see though, like, what do we think is going to happen from here? And we kind of skipped over the Yoda part, but Baby Yoda. So who do we think Baby Yoda is? Do we think, because I think there's really three possibilities, right? This is either a offspring of Yoda and another one of Yoda's kind. This is a clone of Yoda.
Which we discussed right before we started this, and there is no kind. We don't know who Yoda, like what his species
Yeah,
is.
no one really. So George Lucas really kept it under wraps for what Yoda's species was, where their homeworld was. The only ever time we saw that was in episode 1. There was a female Yoda, and she dies, I believe. She's older. So I don't know if we would be thinking that they ever had kids. The timeline for how old this baby is really interesting because it's basically was born about the same time as Anakin or Darth Vader. So,
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler.
They released comics
Yeah.
in the last couple years, however long it's been, but confirmed canon, Anakin Skywalker is Palpatine's child.
Through the Force.
Through the Force. He impregnates Shmi Skywalker with his Sith ways.
Yes. He is.
Which they kind of did, seed the idea of that in Revenge of the Sith.
So this is my third theory, is essentially this is either another attempt at this or it's like the light version's attempt of this, right? So I think it's interesting.
Well, that's the whole thing is like the Force is going to balance itself. And, the whole idea of light and dark, if the idea that you're bringing this chosen one in to balance the Force to get rid of the dark, that doesn't make any sense because that's not balancing it out.
Yeah.
Right. And if Palpatine's manipulating the Force in a way that is not natural, then maybe this is the natural balancing. Like this is the Force itself bringing a new life form into being.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's why Yoda's species is so mysterious and mystical, because there really is no background to it. It is just
the Force balancing
the universe itself creating a life form, which would definitely put a pretty penny on it, if you could get a hold of it.
So that's kind of offspring, clone, or kind of like the Force, or like someone behind the scenes kind of manipulating the Force. Okay, so whatever that option is, whatever happens with that, interesting. But then what do they want with it, right? Because obviously these are bad men that work for the Empire that are wanting it. Are they wanting to harvest midichlorians from it?
The generalization about all the people that work at the Empire being bad.
I mean,
there were some good people on the Death Star. I have to say.
Okay, well, the people he has been dealing with literally want this baby dead. So I think we could honestly say they're bad people.
Well, not the Doctor. The Doctor wanted it alive.
Probably because he wants to molest it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Science molesty stuff.
Oh, harvest the midichlorians.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, that brings up a whole nother weird thing, though, too.
What?
Completely side topic, but mitochondria in the cell.
Yeah.
Supposedly, science believes that they were a bacteria that
incorporated itself into a cell, basically.
Bacteria within our own cells.
Yeah. Oh yeah, dude. I have a biology degree. Yeah. I knew about this a long time ago.
Yeah, but still, that's crazy, man.
Yeah, it's insane.
And that, I don't know. That obviously is where they got the idea.
Oh, totally.
So.
Totally. So yeah, I think, we have a lot of potential from this. I'm really interested to see where it goes. Obviously, I don't think we're gonna have like some Death Stranding where this is a little baby, where like
a bridge baby.
Yeah, he's just like, oh, let me open up and I have a little baby Yoda. I think he's going to take.
You eat it, you get a level up.
I don't really know, what's going to happen. I do think that this is going to be a large part of the narrative, but I feel like this baby's not going to be like in every episode, Like I feel like he's going to go deliver this baby to somebody, and then maybe that's like the resistance somehow, how he gets in touch with them. Maybe he doesn't. I don't know, but I don't think he's going to be a babysitter.
I could see this just being seeded into the larger canon. I could see this being just a tie-in into, the new movies and whatever else they're doing with it, because they're definitely doing something. Like the more I was just, I wasn't interested in the movies, and then I started kind of like listening to some of the fan theories and stuff, and it really started to get me more excited about it, and starting to realize like, oh, well, this wasn't what I was expecting out of Star Wars, but there's a deeper level that they're going with it. There's a fabric that they're attaching all of this stuff with, and I'm more excited to find out where they're going with it.
Oh yeah, totally. Honestly, we have 8 episodes. The seventh episode ends right when we have the launch of the new movie, and then we have right after that a follow up with the last episode. We already know that they're filming season 2. Like I think we're set up for this to really. Wait,
I thought they were done filming season 2 already.
I don't know if they're done, but I think they've started it a long time ago. So probably done, but I don't know if it's like edited and like ready to go. They definitely probably have a shot at it, I would guess. But like, come on, baby, daddy likes like. If this ties in the movies, and then there's a TV show, again, another season 2, like whenever that's going to come out, like, God, I hope it's sooner than a year.
It's Disney. We're so hooked already.
They're like, Disney Plus. Yeah, you like it.
Might as well just jack us straight in.
I know, point. Seriously. But yeah, I mean, I think this is brilliant. This is a great marketing. Like, there's never been anything like this. Like, really, we've never had a Star Wars movie and a TV show that's been mainstream, adult themed, right? There's kids that are watching this. There's teenagers watching this. There's older people watching this. Like, it meets all of the marketing segments. And then we have the movie coming out at the same time. Like, I think it just a perfect trifecta. You definitely know kids are going to want toys of this, right?
I mean, if they're anything like I was when I was younger.
Totally.
God. We were talking about that earlier. I was talking about with Matt. And, we were talking about the action figures. We had the action figures. I had like Boba Fett like all over my wall.
Mm-hmm.
I had Slave One hanging from a fishing line to like make it look like it was flying.
And like think about nowadays, like how much you could legitimately spend on your kid. If your kid was like
5 years from now, people are gonna have floating spaceships in their room.
Seriously though, it's awesome. I can't wait. But I just think it's really, really interesting. I think, from Disney's point of view, like this is so smart for the movie, for the TV show, like they go hand in hand, they market each other. They're all the stuff that's going to go through as far as toys, merchandise, posters, clothing, like that, they're going to make a crap ton of money from that. And I hope it just, I hope it feeds into it in a positive way, because honestly, I think that's been missing from Star Wars for a little bit, and I'm excited for it. Another interesting thing, and maybe most of you don't care about it, but for me, I think it's kind of a big deal. I've been waiting for them to remaster all of the Star Wars movies in 4K and launch it, and it just never is. And I haven't bought them on my Apple TV because I'm like, they're not in 4K yet. I'll wait. And Disney Plus has every one of them in 4K.
Are they in 4K?
Yeah.
Nice.
It's like awesome. I haven't looked at every single one, but I looked at New Hope and it's in 4K, or it shows it at least. And they also they edited the Who Fired First scene a little bit more too, evidently. So
oh really?
I guess there's a line now that was added.
Yeah. Oh geez.
I mean, hey,
let's see what happens.
Right? I know. I don't think it's anything.
They better take
the
Han shot first path.
I don't think they did. I think they just gave it another kind of excuse.
Boycotting.
Same time. They shot at the same time.
I mean, I guess that's fine. I'll take it.
I mean, honestly, if you think about it, like they don't want to piss off George Lucas. George Lucas already did that. I don't think they're gonna really could do a retcon and go completely, other way.
Yeah.
But I just think it's really interesting. I'm definitely, as a person too that, I watched Clone Wars my own volition. Rebels I've only watched a little bit of.
Now you can watch all of it.
They're all in one place.
Yeah.
And it's pretty awesome.
Plus
that you
all
can
kinds
just...
of other stuff. I was just like, I was going through and I'm like, oh my God, there's documentaries, there's short films. And then I, of course, like flip back and I'm like, oh God, there's the whole Marvel section too. Like,
totally. Yeah. And I can only imagine if you had kids too, like how great it is to be like, okay, here you go. Here's a kid's profile.
Yep.
There you go. And it's not like, I mean, maybe this is a little bit like of me.
Honestly,
in my
though,
opinion.
there's not a lot. Even like as I browse through,
Yeah.
and of course my daughter's a little bit older now,
Yeah.
but there's not a lot on there that I'm like, oh man, I don't want her watching that.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Like on Netflix, that's not the story, right?
No, not
and
at all.
if you do have a kid's profile on Netflix, I've been over to people's houses that like are like, hey, babysit my kid Netflix. Here you go. And it's like, no, these are the TV shows that we have.
I'm
like
the map. I'm the map. I'm the map. I'm the map.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just like, okay, like there's a lot of timeless classics, right? There's all the new stuff that Disney's putting out that's live capture.
Lady and the Tramp's on there.
Yeah, like I think there's just a lot of good stuff for like kid. Like honestly, if I had a kid, like I would not feel bad about being like, okay, like you know what, you can watch a Disney movie a day, and like cost me what $12, and I get Hulu with it. Yeah, I'm down for that. Like, so Netflix. I know we already brought this up in one of our preview episodes, but you better watch out. Like they're gonna step up their game. I do like the Netflix originals, but like they really need to bump it up.
Yeah. And then, not to mention, Netflix is going to have more competition with Amazon coming up too, because at a Lord of the Rings.
Totally. Oh yeah, that thing's so crazy expensive.
Yeah.
It's nuts. So I don't know. All I know is I'm focused on the here and now. I'm not going to look too forward to it because I don't want to be too disappointed. We have been disappointed by things before. We've had a really great television and it's gone downhill. But all signs I think right now point to this is great. I know I'm going to stay tuned. I can't wait for this Friday. And I know that you guys probably can't wait as well. If you guys liked this podcast or this YouTube video, go ahead and give us a like and subscribe to us. It really helps us out and let us know that you're interested. It takes a lot of time and dedication to this, and it lets us know that there's somebody that actually gives a crap just like us. And then that way also you get to see that we have another episode out as soon as it launches. That means if you're on your way to work or you're at work bored, you're cleaning your house, you see that there's a new episode that's launched, you can listen to it right away instead of having to come and actually search for it. So it helps us out, helps you out, and make sure that we have more Mandalorian content as soon as possible.
Yeah, for sure. And then if you're commenting on any of the videos or the podcast, we're going to reply to you directly during the next podcast. So
yeah, because we're cool like that. So go ahead and shout us out. If you guys have any questions, go and visit our website. It's going to be linked in the description. And I think that's it for this one, Matt. Okay, cool. Well, maybe the force be with you, and we'll see you next Friday.